You think free meals are charity? The restaurant manager shouted, snatching the plate from the little girl's hands. The waitress stepped between them. I'm paying for it. She's a student, not a beggar. But the termination order came immediately. 2 hours later, the restaurant door swung open. A man in military uniform, followed by 3 escort officers, walked in. Who dared to humiliate my daughter? Type honor if you believe kindness deserves protection. Emily was a 27-year-old waitress working at a small diner near a military base. Her smile came easily despite long hours on her feet, and regular customers often requested her section. Every morning, she set aside a special breakfast, egg sandwich and warm milk, for a strange little girl, about 10 years old, who wore an old jacket and never spoke. The child's silence spoke volumes about her circumstances, though Emily never pried. The girl always sat at the corner window table, eating carefully, methodically, savoring each bite as if it might be her last. Her eyes held a quiet thank you that needed no words. She never asked for money or extra food. Emily secretly paid for these meals herself, using her own tip money rather than charging them to the restaurant. It was an expense she could barely afford, but one she considered essential. One morning, the manager, Mr. Holtz, noticed Emily placing the usual breakfast at the girl's table. "What are you doing? Giving away free food?" he demanded, his voice carrying across the diner. Emily explained softly, "She doesn't ask, but clearly needs it. I pay for it with my own money." Holtz scolded her loudly in front of customers. "I don't need emotions. I need profit. This is your final warning." Whispers spread around the diner. "She's just being kind." Poor little girl. But Emily continued quietly, day after day. The child grew thinner as weeks passed, but arrived precisely on time each morning, always bowing her head in gratitude before leaving for school. Emily began noticing other details: the girl's worn-out shoes, too thin for the approaching winter, her carefully mended backpack, how she'd occasionally slip a piece of bread into her pocket, presumably for later. One winter morning, when Emily was setting the usual plate down, Holtz stormed over. He grabbed the breakfast and threw it into the trash can. "I warned you. This is the last time." The little girl froze, her eyes wide with shock and embarrassment. Emily felt her chest tighten, not from fear of losing her job, but from seeing the child's face flush with humiliation. Other diners stared, some uncomfortable, others pretending not to notice. A truck driver shook his head disapprovingly, but focused on his coffee rather than intervening. Emily glanced at the trash can, then at Holtz's stern face, then at the hungry child. In that moment, she made a decision that would change everything, not just for herself, but for everyone in that small-town diner. Emily broke down crying during her shift, while Holtz continued berating her in front of customers. "You fool, you don't have the right to make these decisions. This is a business, not an orphanage." An elderly patron tried to speak up, but Holtz cut them off. "Want to help? Buy her breakfast for a month then?" The little girl, Lily, stood frozen, her small hands trembling as they clutched her old backpack, her face pale with embarrassment and hunger. Emily approached, kneeling to embrace her gently. "It's okay. I'm sorry. This isn't your fault." Holtz shouted, "Get out, both of you!" Emily was suspended on the spot. She walked Lily outside, giving her a box of pastries she'd purchased with her final paycheck. When she asked, "Where's your mother?" Lily whispered, "Mom's gone. Dad works far away. He said if anything's wrong, just call." Emily inquired, "Do you have his number?" Lily nodded. Emily took out her phone and dialed, saying just one sentence. "I'm sorry to bother you. I don't know who you are, but someone needs you right now." The voice on the other end asked only 2 questions, then said, "Put my daughter on." After a brief conversation with Lily, the call ended with, "I'll be there in 90 minutes. Wait exactly where you are." Emily and Lily sat on a bench outside the diner, sharing hot chocolate from a nearby convenience store. They didn't speak much. Emily sensed the girl wasn't used to conversation. "Your dad seems nice," Emily offered. "He fights bad people," Lily replied, the most words Emily had ever heard from her. Less than 2 hours later, a black SUV with military plates pulled up in front of the diner. Colonel Ethan Cross stepped out, wearing full-dress uniform, accompanied by 3 escort officers. His face betrayed no emotion, but his purposeful stride spoke volumes. They didn't say much, just walked straight into the restaurant, where Holt stood checking inventory with arms crossed. The diner fell silent as the military contingent entered. Regular customers sensed something significant was about to happen. Colonel Cross scanned the room, then locked eyes with Holtz. Without raising his voice, because real authority never needs volume, he said, "I understand you have a policy about feeding children." Holtz began stammering explanations that died in his throat as Cross approached. Sometimes kindness is seen as weakness, but with the right person at the right moment, it becomes a badge of honor. If you've ever seen a kind act punished, type honor to stand up for what's right. Colonel Cross stood in the center of the diner, the room completely silent. He spoke clearly, his voice carrying without shouting. "I am Lily's father and commander of the 112th Airborne Battalion. I'm not here for breakfast. I'm here to ask, who treated my daughter like garbage?" Holtz stammered, I don't understand. This was just a misunderstanding." Cross placed a photocopy of a Department of Defense Children's Support Program certificate on the table, along with an invitation to participate. "My daughter's entitled to free support. What Emily did was entirely appropriate." He turned to Emily. "Thank you for protecting my child," when others turned away. The colonel explained that as a single father and active military officer often deployed on classified missions, he depended on programs like this. Lily was supposed to receive support from the restaurant chain through a military family assistance program, a contract Holtz had apparently been ignoring while pocketing the subsidy. After a brief conversation, Cross requested a meeting with the restaurant chain's owner. 1 hour later, Holtz was asked to resign as branch manager. Emily was offered a position as coordinator for the Veteran and Family Support Program in that area, with double her previous salary. The local newspaper ran a story, "One meal, one heart, and an army standing behind it." Lily's school organized a ceremony honoring Emily, calling her a mother without blood ties. The little girl finally broke down crying, speaking clearly for the first time, "You're the only one who didn't leave." The restaurant chain issued a new policy. Each branch would provide 1 free breakfast daily for children in difficult circumstances, named Emily's Breakfast Program. When asked how she felt, Emily said, "I just thought, if my child were in that situation, I'd hope someone like me would be there." The program expanded rapidly. Within months, every restaurant in the chain had a small table reserved for children who needed support. The Military Family Assistance Program that should have been supporting Lily all along was revamped and properly implemented. Colonel Cross formally recognized Emily at a military ceremony, presenting her with a Civilian Service Medal, an honor rarely given to non-military personnel. "Some battles aren't fought on foreign soil," he said during the presentation. "Some of the most important ones happen in everyday places, by everyday heroes who simply refuse to look away." Emily didn't change with her newfound recognition. She still worked her shifts, still wiped down tables, still greeted customers with a warm smile. The only difference was the small medallion she now wore on her uniform and the knowledge that she had made a difference. Other employees began following her example, creating a culture of kindness that spread throughout the restaurant chain. Training materials now included the Emily Protocol, guidelines for recognizing and supporting children in need without compromising their dignity. What began as one simple act of kindness had transformed into systemic change, proof that sometimes it takes just one person standing firm to shift an entire culture. Now each morning, Lily sits at the same table with Emily, no longer silent, but always starting with, "What story do you have for me today?" Emily still works as a waitress, but with added responsibility, training new staff to understand what it means to serve with heart. She doesn't need accolades. She only needs to know that a child no longer fears going to school hungry each morning. A small sign hangs in the corner of the diner. "One breakfast, one opportunity, one kind person is enough to change a destiny." Lily visits her father at the military base on weekends, now proudly introducing Emily to everyone she meets. Colonel Cross established a foundation supporting children of deployed personnel, ensuring no military child goes without basic necessities. The Foundation's first initiative? Partnering with restaurants near military bases nationwide to implement Emily's Breakfast in every location. When local schools heard about the program, they began coordinating with the Foundation to identify children who might need support, creating a safety net that catches those who might otherwise fall through the cracks. Kindness doesn't need permission. It only needs to be preserved. Because somewhere a child is waiting for someone to pause, smile, and ask, "Were you okay?" If you believe kindness holds more power than medals, subscribe to TT Hero Stories. TT Hero Stories, because some heroes never stop serving.